welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 541. I am your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Sellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week, Knightmare for the MSX. Matt, what does the MSX mean to you?
Weird, hard to emulate. That's Snatcher, right? Snatcher's the MSX?
Snatcher was definitely the PC-88. Now I don't... let's see if it was MSX. It may have been. It may have very well been. No. I think that's the one platform it didn't... Came out on the MSX2.
Oh, well... So, maybe Snatcher. No, this is one of those weird... It's a weird era of video games just in general right here.
Yeah.
With all the computer stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much, and I don't know what to think of besides Snatcher. And that's half right.
Yeah, I think along those same lines, my only association was ever Metal Gear, because this is where the Metal Gear games started. It's also where Bomberman started. It's where Parodius started. There are some really weird versions of games that you like on the MSX, such as Vampire Killer, the Castlevania adaptation that's not good. The East games had entries here. I think there was a Final Fantasy on here. MSX is a weird platform. I encourage you, if you're curious about Japanese computers, to go look it out, to search it out. But yeah, Konami was a big supporter of the MSX. There's a lot of interesting games here. You can see sort of the arcade legacy making its way over into the MSX. And that's not, I don't think we'll see that and talk about that when we talk about Knightmare here this episode. But yeah, the MSX was something that we did not really have here, or not in a way that felt meaningful. But it was a way to try and standardize computers for people so everyone could have a platform to work from. And of course, anything that can play video games, people will find a way to make it play video games. And in this case, they were able to make it play video games pretty well. So, Knightmare. Knightmare, developed by Konami, published by Konami, released for the MSX first in 1986. Back of the box, bafflingly, is translated into English. Makes zero sense to me, but directly on the package, you've got Japanese and English. And the big old blurb in the center reads, plunge into a saga of romance and blood-curdling adventure in a castle full of surrealistic nightmare monsters right out of Greek mythology. For experts only, this is a game adventure of super high level difficulty. Did you know this was based in Greek mythology, Matt?
Not until I did a little bit of research before this episode.
Looking.
I certainly didn't upon booting it and playing for a couple hours.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't have called the first boss Medusa, but now in hindsight I can kind of see, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense that she was Medusa.
No, you're looking right at her. It's not possible.
What do you mean? Oh, I see. Very good, very good. I'm an idiot.
Gotta hit. She's not hitting R on her keyboard for that Medusa alt in Dota 2.
I'm glad you can still keep that alive.
2024.
Is that the year Matt returns to Dota?
No. I can't still watch, but no.
Do you think if we started the podcast in the old format that you would go back into, you'd fall back into Dota?
No, I don't think so. I think if anything, well, I don't know, because I think the new format made me play Street Fighter.
I think the new format's getting different games in front of you, but it's also filling the time that you would spend wandering into different directions. I don't know.
I think, man, if I had more time, man, I'd be all the way done Final Fantasy 14 right now. That's where I'm at in my life.
Yeah.
Ready for Inward. What's the name of the new expansion? Something Ward, isn't it?
Endwalker?
No, a new one's coming out this year.
Endwalker 2.
You got it. Anyway, Knightmare is a game about...
It's about super high level difficulty and Greek mythology. So you take control of Popolon, as the manual describes. You have to go save Aphrodite and work your way through the Knightmare Castle. But that's Nightmare with an N, not Nightmare with a K, as the title of the game suggests. It's a game pretty straightforward. You control this little knight, and he's I like the character design of the knight. This is, for all intents and purposes, a top-down shooter. Except the thing that's really neat about Knightmare is that instead of it being a spaceship and in outer space fighting aliens or some other ships, you're a knight working your way up through corridors toward a final boss at the end of each stage. There's 8 stages in the game. Each of them there's waves of enemies, there's obstacles, there's things to get past. You reach the end, you defeat the boss, and you're right on to the next stage. It's very straightforward in that regard. The big reason that I added it to the list for this year was, one, I thought it was interesting that there's, like, when I say Konami, what franchises do you think of, right? Not Knightmare.
No.
But Konami made 3 of these games, and no one talks about them. They're never brought up. They're never mentioned. And after playing it now, but even prior to playing it, I kind of had, a rough idea of what it looked like and how it played. But after playing it, there's a lot of, you can see where this influenced other things. And in fact, the reason I stumbled on this game was in doing research a year ago for the game that we did last week, The Guardian Legend. But I learned that staff at Compile, I'm going to read the direct quote here from Takayuki Hirono, a designer who worked on Zanak, the shooting game Zanak. He said, if I had to point to another direct influence on Zanak, it would be Konami's Majo Densetsu, aka Knightmare. In that game, if you pick up the same sub-weapon twice in a row, it powers that weapon up, and I took inspiration from that for Zanak. So that was in Zanak, but that was also in the Aleste series that Compile would end up doing. And a lot of the same staff that made Zanak went on to make Gardic, and of course, The Guardian Legend, we know as a sequel to Gardic. I had fun with this game, but this game is pretty shallow. I say that, but then there is some surprise depth. There's some hidden, is it stage 6, stage 7, or stage 6, when you have platforms you need to cross and you need to unlock them by shooting invisible blocks, kind of stuff like that. Those were fun surprises. But otherwise, the game is pretty straightforward. You move along a series of screens till you reach the boss. A lot of the enemy types are going to be the same throughout. All the boss patterns I found were pretty similar to one another, except for a surprise at stage 7. There was a different boss where it kind of infinitely spawned powered up versions of a different enemy you had already fought kind of in the stages. But yeah, what was your first reaction to Knightmare, Matt? Jumping in, playing Knightmare.
Another one of these was, I think, my first reaction, followed by what idiots decided to put two side scrolling, well, I guess vertical shooting shoot 'em ups back to back to start the year. Yeah, but besides that, I don't know. This was it. The thing that stood out was the slow moving part of it.
Yeah.
And this, I think this, I don't know if this is, I can't help but compare and contrast because we're doing them back to back, but like the Guardian Legend felt like in the corridor sections, you were going so fast. And then this, again, I know what platform it's on, but it's just like, doot.
It's,
doot.
Yeah.
Doot. It's like, ooh, all right. And then you're like moving slow as a character. I mean, the enemies, they start slow. They certainly pick up pace, and they certainly put enough projectiles onto a screen to make it hell. But yeah, I think the tempo was a little amiss after coming off what we came off, and that's kind of how I played them in order. I had a little bit of back and forth, but I was kind of like done with the Guardian Legend before I finally like moved on. But no, I definitely felt that change of pace. And I think I would have felt it. I think I would have felt it being slow, regardless. Though
it is, and it's one of those things that playing an MSX game in 2024 is weird. But to your point, like it does not have smooth scrolling. That was something that was implemented with the NES in terms of like modern console gameplay. And it was something that like was a big deal. If you remember, that's one of the things that helped id make Doom is Carmack figuring out how to do smooth scrolling when they cloned Mario Brothers. So yeah, seeing this just kind of took me back to those stories and just like the way that computer screens used to load and the way that it would need to draw literally every line over again. You couldn't just smoothly slide up or, adjust pixels. So it created that kind of staggered thing. And yeah, you felt like you wanted to move faster than the game would let you at times in Knightmare. But right from the start, so enemies do move in traditional. If you've played any shooting game, you know how enemy patterns are, right? There's kind of different wave-based patterns, straight down, side to side, different movements. But pretty quickly, you start to notice these just circles with the letter P in them, which those are your power crystals. And the power crystals, as you shoot them, they change colors, and then picking up a different one unlocks a different power. Thankfully, this manual existed. There were a few I started to learn, right? But like being able to reference the manual still, and the fact that the manual is translated into like English, French, Spanish.
Yeah.
It was a nice reference. But yeah, so the big ones, like, if you just pick it up, you're going to get bonus points. Otherwise, you'll pick up either speed, a shield, the ability to go transparent for... how long is the transparency? It's like 25 seconds?
Yeah, don't they all float around there? Well, I guess not shield, but...
Yeah. And then you've got one... They call it contact explosion in the manual. Prior to me reading that, I just kind of was calling it like, I don't know. I was thinking of speaking of Doom, like the Berserk kind of where you become the bullet. You're no longer shooting, but as long as you just touch an enemy, they will die. So those are the power crystals, and then you've got weapon crystals. Those kind of fall down. Same thing. If you pick up one of them that's just standard, you get bonus points. but then you can choose between twin arrows rather than just the standard single arrow that you shoot, triple flames, a boomerang, swords, which the swords kind of like shoot out from the character as well, and then a full fire arrow is the strongest there. Each pickup that you get, whether it's a magic power crystal or the weapons or anything like that, they all grant you points in addition to the actual power-up itself, which is a nice little bonus, although what do points really matter, right? And then finally there's rather than square or circles, there's squares you interact with. These are all, or kind of, have chess pieces on them. So the rook gets you bonus points. The knight will wipe all enemies on screen. The queen freezes time. And really just the thing that sucks about whatever, we can dive into what's good or bad about any of these, but just what it is, it freezes time, and the enemies don't move at all. So you can just kind of run around the screen and shoot everybody. The king gets you an extra life. And then there's another square type, mystery square type, that's just a kind of gradient that's just an impassable object. And that's Knightmare. There's power-ups. I love the idea of being able to shoot and change what power-up you get. Like, you're kind of choosing what it is. Konami would do this again with Twin B, or I guess they'd already done it with Twin B, so it's not too dissimilar from that concept. Did you have a preferred weapon as you played through?
I was trying to find something that was a go-to. I don't think I ever found one. I kind of like the twin arrows. I like them more than the triple flames, because I like the flames scatter, but it didn't feel like it hit hard, especially like the mystery squares and the hidden ones. Like, it just, I felt like I wasn't getting enough shots off.
They're too slow to take those out. And yeah, when you want to rapid fire against those, something like an arrow or anything else besides the flames, actually.
So yeah, I think I found myself trying to get to the twin arrows, but a lot of what would happen, yes, there you can definitely pause the game and refer to this guy and be like, all right, what color do I need? And then when you go and unpause the game and you shoot the thing, sometimes it takes like 2 shots for it to get going, and then you accidentally shoot again, and then you're trying to rapidly, and then you just end up getting the wrong power up that you originally wanted.
Yeah,
so there was some exploring accidentally with some of these weapons, and the crystals, the powers as well. I tried for the powers, trying more so for speed, because I felt like that was useful, but I ended up learning quickly that the shield is like very all-powerful.
Yeah, the shield's pretty good. I didn't mind transparency if I unlocked it by accident. I hated having the...
by accident.
Yeah, I never went for transparency. I hated the red power-up, like the one that makes you the weapon. I did not like... I never liked that in any of these types of games where like you become the thing. Any of these top-down shooters, I don't like it in these. I like to shoot in a top-down shooter. I don't know.
I did like the countdown, though, because some of them...
Yeah.
I know if you hear a sound cue enough, you kind of get all right, stop, like, being aggressive. But, like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts with the countdown. Like, at 2, I was like, all right,
I gotta stop.
Settle down.
Yeah. Like, your character's flashing, the number's right on the screen. It's like, you've got 2 seconds left. But yeah, other games, they don't necessarily always give you a straight timer.
The famous star power song from Mario. Like, that. Like, you kind of have to know the song. Yeah.
Yeah. I did like the boomerang quite a bit in this one. It wasn't my favorite, but I feel like if I ended up in that range, I would be like, yeah, I could do boomerang for a bit and grab that. Like it was not a bad time.
Boomerang was interesting because if you timed and walked appropriately, like you can knock out like a line of bats coming out in like 2 throws, or maybe 3. But no, if used properly, that Boomerang was really good. I just never got good with it to make it that good.
Yeah, same. Not good enough in a way that I was consistent. Like good enough that I could pull it off every now and then, but not. Yeah.
Yeah, I was never confident. I guess maybe that's a better way of phrasing.
Did you find the game to be difficult?
Yes, absolutely.
What element?
I was shocked when the back of the box just came out and said it's going to be hard. I had a new appreciation for my note that said difficult early.
Yeah. Do you think it was harder so you've done, obviously we did the Guardian Legend last week, but you've done a few top-down shooters or side-scrolling shooters. Like we've got Glaylancer on the list. We've got Parodius on the list. Is that all I've made you suffer through so far? Downwell's kind of like that. A little bit different, but
I for some reason want to lump Valis in with those, but that was just difficult for side-scrolling.
But I mean, is this up there with the most difficult in that realm, or?
I think the fact there's a stark like at least like with Glaylancer and Parodius, like there is speed to everything. It's just coming at you fast, but you're moving fast. Like
right.
And I feel like there's like some pattern. Well, I guess Knightmare is pattern, but like there's some like patterning if you save scum enough to kind of see, kind of like, all right, let's hang out here, let things go by, or like stay here and shoot as they come in or whatever. I feel like with Knightmare, just when enough stuff gets on screen, I don't know there's any rhyme or reason to the projectiles. I think they just shoot. I think it's all RNG, and I think you're fucked. It's like the wrong RNG comes out.
Yeah, and some of the side ones, like they move in weird paths.
And it doesn't build. Like it's all right. Like the first section is easy enough, and I think like maybe I don't know. I feel like the first stage has like 2 bridges, 3 bridges, maybe 4.
Yeah,
and I feel like after you cross each bridge, it's like all right, we're gonna ramp up the difficulty. But by that 3rd bridge, you're starting to get projectiles and. What's even more annoying in this game is the hidden boxes that you accidentally shoot and it just gets in your way. And it is another one where I tapped out early, but like as I'm seeing others play this, it's like there's hidden boxes everywhere. Yeah. And it's so annoying. And they take like 5 shots to get out of the way.
Yeah, you really have to spam, and that's just time you're not spending shooting anything else.
Right. And it's not like you have endless supply of bullets. You're only allowed to have 2 or 3, depending on the weapon, maybe even 1 on screen at a time. So, yeah, when you're up close to it, like you can and machine fire. But when it's like up across the bridge, and then when you start to have to find the hidden, like to get a bridge, because there's no bridge there. Right. You have to then shoot the question box, or you have to find the question box first and then shoot, and then figure out a way to get there in time. It gets difficult for sure.
That said, I feel like some of the bosses were not necessarily too difficult. The one weird one, stage 7, was faster than I felt like you are as the knight. But otherwise, they're all they move in their own patterns, and they're kind of easy to counter. It's the overwhelming like screens of bullets that you have with the regular enemies that become the tough part of this.
Yeah, I think I have a terrible weakness of like if trying to be too aggressive in some of these, because like any enemy that's just shooting straight down and you can't really like shoot, like you can't angle a shot or at all. Like I struggle with in games like this, and that's all these bosses.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just straight down shooters with some other mechanic going on, like the I know Medusa introduces that like one weird like rock projectile that if you shoot it, it just comes straight for you. You don't destroy it, but like if you leave it alone, it just kind of slowly creeps down. It's like a weird game of Space Invaders. All of a sudden there, but yeah, that's like my thing. I think that's just a me thing where like I want to get in this boss's face sometimes, like for a window, and there's never really a window, and it's just a chip. And the chipping is a game of patience because there's really no health bar.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know. You just wait until it's dead and the sound
Hope
changes.
and pray.
Yeah.
Guardian Legend did it too, but there were some bosses that had indicators of like, oh, you're losing an eye, or you're kind of changing a different color, or you lost a piece of your machinery. You kind of found a halfway point. But
this could have benefited from the Castlevania, like, you have players' health, and then enemy health, and it had the boss's health right there ready to, you could kind of just reference, like, okay, just if I can just survive 2 more, whatever. Did you like the game?
Personally, not my favorite. Critically, though, it's not a bad game.
No, it's middle of the road. Like it's good. I feel like there's some of those the technical things of it being on the platform it's on that make it tough to like experience now. But I think it's cool seeing how much it kind of took a gameplay genre and injected it with a different storytelling genre, right? Like it put you in a different scenario. I think that was really neat. I like the music a lot. There's 2 main songs, but I like them both, plus the boss theme or whatever. But they're both fun. Like I can hear it in my head right now because of how much I've heard it in the last week.
Yeah, that's when you look at my marks, that audio like surpasses most of the other marks. Cause
this isn't necessarily Knightmare, but Knightmare 2 I've looked at, which it's totally different. It's a side-scrolling adventure kind of thing. There's a Knightmare 3 as well. Yeah, I mean, they made 3 of these on there. So I kind of want to check those out now in the wake of this. I also checked out one called Knightmare Gold. It's fans, I believe it was from Singapore, who remade the game for MSX2, and it did have smooth scrolling. They changed the colors around a bit, so there's like a little bit more visual variance to whatever. But so that's neat, but it's not exactly, the game we're talking about. You ready to rank it? Or do you have final thoughts on Knightmare? Anything we didn't talk about before we rank this thing?
No, I do like that it kind of broke it. This is a weird thing because it's going to be like a pro or a con, but like I do agree. I like that it broke that trope of like all these have to be space shooters because this is the first one of the 4 on our list that, and anything else I think like this, like my first thought is always like Galaga. Again, space. It is nice to see a different change of pace. However, personally, medieval not my necessarily. Roman Greek mythology not necessarily my favorite thing. But it is nice to see a change of pace, especially being one of the being early in this kind of genre.
Yeah.
Yeah, that being said, unfortunately it's a little samey. It's just the same. Like the biggest obstacles are like avoiding water, which is bridges.
Yeah.
I know that one stage, it's a stage 7, it's it has like a series of piers that you kind of have to navigate around.
Yeah.
kind of weirdly reminded me of Paperboy 2 for some reason. The end stages where you're like navigating.
Oh, yeah, no, the colors have that. So yeah.
And maybe that's what. Okay, yeah. So dumb Paperboy 2 reference. I got out of this. Yeah, that's about like it's not my cup of tea. I don't know what it is. The game, not my cup of tea, but it's fine. It's definitely playable. There's people that can get enjoyment out of this. It's a good history lesson. Yada yada yada.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's cool to see some of Konami's legacy that doesn't get talked about frequently or ever. I hadn't really heard of Knightmare prior to the last year.
And I will be remiss to not take this opportunity to finish this conversation how we started it. Dawn Trail is the name of that Final Fantasy XIV expansion that is coming out in the summer. Dawn Trail.
Some listener out there this whole time has been screaming like, God, are they gonna... But yeah, I would recommend checking it out just for curiosity's sake. If you're doing an afternoon with the MSX, as many of us do, there's a Sega Saturn collection of MSX games that has this on it. I think it's worth checking out. You can check out the what are the Metal Gear games, and then you can also check out Kojima's first game. I believe it's his first game. Penguin Adventure. I think he worked on it. I think he did something very small on it.
That sounds right. That might just sound right because you've said it enough.
That might be, yeah. But Penguin Adventure I probably should have put Penguin Adventure on the list, but Knightmare had that direct lineage, but I wanted to get MSX on the list. It's my goal every year now with the list to get some different platforms and stuff out there. I forget what I did last year that was weird. And we've been doing some PC Engine stuff. That's been fun. I don't remember what I did last year that was more on the obscure side. But
Shin-Chan.
Game-wise, yeah. But platform, I thought I made us do a weird platform last year too, didn't I? Maybe not.
You did. Where's Valis at?
Was that last year too? Yeah, that was Yeah, that was PC Engine. Oh, Snatcher was the one. I made sure I got some Sega CD representation.
Oh, sorry, no, that was season 10. Sorry, I can tell by the review score. No, that was Snatcher. Which doesn't feel weird because it was on the Sega CD, but sure.
Yeah, well, we have no other Sega CD games in the list, right?
Oh, there's many more Sega CD games that you can put on the list.
Stay tuned. All right. Let's see where we think Knightmare lives. Listeners, you can follow along with the list at thefreecheese.com/thelist. Oof.
Yeah, you start scrolling, and you scroll a bit.
All right,
Go
ahead.
Is that that's the little highlight on the live list here? Is that where you're thinking? Because that was my exact thought.
Right above it.
Yep.
Okay.
And below the darkness at the new number 65, right?
Yep. Our new number 65 below the darkness and above Rogue.
Yep, that was exactly where I was going to maybe suggest if we were struggling.
Yeah. Well, hey, that was one last year too, right? Was Rogue getting that on the list? Like, an important game historically, but is it one that, necessarily...
Someone talked about Rogue in my life recently.
Oh.
And I was able to better educate them.
Look at that. See? That's why I do what I do. Sure. That might be the end of... See, I haven't gone down this dark path yet, and maybe that's season 13. I know we're only 2-3 weeks into season 12, but maybe I need to start getting into the okay, let's troll Matt with some selections here, because I think the rest of the year is pretty solid. I don't know. I've got a Mac. Oh, I do have a Macintosh game on the list for later this year. So there's that. Stay tuned for October.
Yeah, but I know what that is, and I'm actually kind of excited to play that one.
Yeah. I don't know. But that's Knightmare.
I have not... I don't think I've intentionally trolled you guys yet.
No, I don't think so either.
I mean,
Halloween
I knew it was
close.
Yeah, but I mean, it was on Halloween. It was the October map
it worked
pick.
thematically.
It was an Atari. That's our first Atari 2600
First Atari
game.
Yeah.
I'd said up front, 30 seconds is probably all you need.
Yep. Yeah. Listeners, we still have a blank slot. If you've got a weird game or a weird platform you'd like to see make it on the list, write in podcast@thefreecheese.com and we will debut it later this year. Until then, check out thefreecheese.com for all of our episodes and everything upcoming. Next week, keep those New Year's resolutions fresh with Ring Fit Adventure, Part 1. Until then, thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. See you next week. Bye.